A Republican senator from Florida, Tim Scott, is actually, that would be from South Carolina, if we're talking about the Tim Scott that I'm familiar with. Yeah. Well, Tim Scott from South Carolina is warning woke corporate America to be prepared for major backlash. This comes as many Americans say that they are getting fed up with the virtue signaling and support of left-wing politics from hundreds of corporations. Our next guest is also calling for conservatives to use their influence and voice to fight back against woke companies. And joining us to discuss is the director of Free Enterprise Project, Justin Danhof. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys letting me on.
You know, so it seems like every day there's a different corporation, a different example of wokeism making headlines. How great of a danger do you see it?
Well, look, conservatives have been ignoring this problem at our own peril for more than a decade. Wokeism is nothing new. It's just a new term for the political left's march through the corporate cultural lane. What I am is I'm a conservative investor. So I invest in companies that are woke so I can influence the discussion within the boardroom. And that's what the left has been doing in large numbers for about 20 years now. They buy up shares, and these are activist investors. They buy up shares in companies, and they put resolutions on the corporate proxy ballots, and they vote for them in droves. The numbers bear out that what happens at annual shareholder meetings of publicly traded companies is the equivalent of a red or purple state election that goes blue every single year because the left shows up with their money and they vote and the right does not. So I have a question. You know, if you're mad at Coca-Cola for telling their white employees to be less white or over, the Georgia voter integrity issue, why don't you vote the board members of Coca-Cola out of their seats? Conservatives have just as much money invested in the capital markets as the left does, but we don't use our tools in the same way that the left does. So if you wonder why there's critical race training at all of these, corporate campuses all across the country, that's because the left files resolutions demanding it, and then the left shows up and votes for them. Yeah. The right can show up and vote them down just as easily.
By the way, we were talking about Tim Scott. It's Rick Scott.
Right. Well, there's Rick Scott from Florida, and there's Tim Scott from South Carolina.
So Rick is the one that was warning against woke corporations. Yeah. And what role does the consumer play in this, Justin?
A big role. But again, what the consumer does on the right, every time a company takes a woke action, like pick Nike, we all claim, we go on Facebook and we go on Twitter and we claim we're going to boycott. Well, those boycotts have never actually materialized and never been long-standing. So the companies know that they can offend us with impunity because we've made these hollow threats time and time and time again. If you're a consumer, right, every company has this thing called customer relations. Those phone lines should be flooded. Again, if you're an investor, every company has something called investor relation. Those emails and those phone lines should be flooded with folks who are upset because let me tell you, when a company takes an action that the left deems offensive, they show up in droves. They vote, they call, they email, they protest, they show up. And so it's our silence that has let these companies move so far to the political left. So we put out a voter guide to help people vote on these things. Come to nationalcenter.org, check it out. It's the Investor Value Voter Guide 2021. It can help us take back the corporate cultural lane.
All right. Well, Justin, thank you so much for joining us and letting folks know how they can participate and get some more information. Thank you.
Thanks. Right. Appreciate it.